everybody. I thought we'd do a bit of a unwind your spine session today. If you have osteoporosis, keep the rotation very small. Initiate it with your gaze and work in a very small range of motion. Alrighty, so let's start. Oh, the other thing is you'll need a yoga strap, or perhaps if you don't have a strap, if you have a TheraBand at home or an old tie or an old belt you can use. That's where that will come in handy later on. And if you don't have that, don't let that be a hindrance to doing this workout. All right, so we're going to stand with your feet hip distance apart. We're just going to start to warm up the shoulders just a little bit. We'll bring our arms up overhead. The other thing is, at some point, you may need to pause this. The next exercise that I'm going to do, or the next pose that we're going to do, or movement that we're going to do involves a wall. So it doesn't have to be much of a wall. Now this time, as we bring our arms up, as we inhale, exhale and rotate and float your hands down. Inhale and unwind yourself back to the start position and rotate to the other side. So arms, inhale up, exhale, they float down as we rotate. Inhale up, rotate, exhale, float them back down. Use your breath, just starting to warm up the spine gently. We'll take one more, this in each direction. Alrighty, float it back down. Now here's the place where the wall comes in handy. You won't be able to see my head, but you should still be able to see me. So I'm going to put both hands on the wall in line with my shoulders. So the angle isn't exactly right, but you can see that my arms are parallel to the floor versus reaching up toward the ceiling. And from here, I'm going to keep my hip bones aimed toward the wall that I'm facing. And I'm going to start with my right hand, and I'm going to exhale, and I'll open my arm out, and I'm going to start to look at it and let my gaze follow it. But my hips stay rotated forward, and then I'm going to come back to the start position. So I'm going to push. In this case, I'm using my right arm to open. I'm going to push with my left hand. And open. Good. So that I create some movement along the upper part of my spine. If we're spending lots of time hunched over a device or book or kitchen counter, right, this is a nice way to open things up. Do that one last one. Good. Now my right hand pushes into the wall and my left arm reaches out. My gaze follows. My hips stay still. Inhale and open. And actually, I reverted to Pilates breath. That's an exhale to rotate and inhale to unwind. Sorry about that. Good. I'll take about 3 more here. Just noticing, maybe you notice one side gets a little more rotation than the other. That arm on the wall creates a little bit of tension against the wall. Good job. All right, and just shake things out, release them a little bit. We'll come to a little bit of a warrior series. We're going to do warrior 1, then 2, in a side angle and a reverse side angle. I'll talk you through it though. I'm going to face lengthwise on my mat with my left leg in front, and I'm going to step my right leg back. And my right back toes are aiming up at the front right corner of the mat, and my hips are squared forward, just like when we were against the wall a minute ago. So my hips square forward. I'm going to inhale, I'm going to bring my arms up. Now we'll get a little extension along that spine, right? The exact opposite if we've been hunched over something all day. And then I'm going to come back down. And now I'm going to open my hips up to the right. And I might have to walk my toes of my right foot over to the right just a little bit. So now that my hips and my chest are open to the long edge of the mat, my left hand is over my left leg and my right arm is over my left leg, or my right leg. And I have some sense of energy, and I gaze out traditionally over my front arm like I'm a warrior scanning the horizon. Now I'm going to set my left elbow down on my left knee and reach my right arm up, and if my shoulder will tolerate it, I can bring it overhead. And now I'm going to float my right hand back to my right thigh and my left arm up, and I'm going to gaze up toward that left hand. Good. And come back to warrior 2. And now let's rotate back to warrior one. All right, we'll add something onto it in just a second. So I'm at warrior one. My hips are squared forward. My hips rotate open to warrior two. I set my left elbow down on my left knee, and I reach up and over. And I exhale. Right hand to the right thigh, left arm up overhead. A little side bend here and openness. Come back through two. And now to one. We'll add something on the next time. All right, I'm going to rotate to two. Good. Set the left elbow down. Right arm up. Reach out long. Right hand behind. Good. Come back through two. I'm going to rotate through one. And this time, I'm going to put my left hand on my low back as I take my right hand and put it on the outside of my left thigh. And I'm going to get a little rotation here. So, a little bit lower on the spine here. Good. Let's do that again. Arms come up. Look up. Float your hands down. Left hand to the low back. Right hand on the outside of your left leg. Rotate to the left. My hips are still squared forward. Let's do that one more time. Arms come up. Warrior one. They float down. Left hand to my low back. Right hand on the outside of my left knee. Open the chest. Good. And then unwind. Release your hands. Step the back leg forward. Shake it out. Now let's go to the other side. So right leg is in front. Left leg steps behind me. And my left toes aim to the left front edge of the mat. I better readjust things here. All right. My right knee is aiming away from the center of my body. My arms come up. I'm at warrior one. Look up. Act like you're going to catch some rays. Rotate to your left. Maybe my back foot adjusts a little bit so my chest can open to the long edge of the mat. I'm going to set my right elbow down, my right knee. Good. Now we reverse it. Up and over. Come back through two. Rotate hips, come back forward to one. Good. Rotate into two. Elbow down. Up and over. Good. Reverse it. Left hand to the left thigh. Right arm up. Good. And then back to two. And one. Right. Here's our last one. Through two. Elbow sits down. Up and over. Reverse it. Back through two. And one. I'm going to pivot my back heel just a little bit. Good. Now from one. I'm going to float my hands down. My right hand comes to my low back, and my left hand comes to the outside of my right thigh, and I'm going to rotate right this time. Now, with everything, pretty much movement-wise, if your breath is harsh or ragged, you're working too hard. So keep it gentle. Arms come up. We're in two. In warrior one. Float your right hand to the low back. Left hand comes to the outside of your right knee. Good. Arms come up. Open your chest. Float your right hand behind. Left hand on the outside of your right knee. Rotate it. Good. Finish the breath you're on. Gently unwind. And come on up. We'll do one more standing move, a dancing warrior. We'll probably do it 3 times on one side and then switch to the other side. So I'm going to put I'm standing lengthwise on my mat, and my left foot is parallel to the short edge of my mat. My toes are facing the long edge. And then I'm going to take my right foot, and I'm going to face my toes toward the short edge of the mat. All right, so left foot aims forward, right foot aims out. Now I'm going to bend my left leg. I get a nice stretch on the inside of this right leg. I'm going to bend my left knee. I'm going to push my right arm, like I'm going to push the imaginary wall, and my left arm comes up and over. I can sort of sink into it. And then straighten both legs. Don't change anything. Left knee bends, right arm pushes, left arm comes up and over. Good. Come on back. Next one we'll hold for about 4 or 5 breaths. We'll see. So again, toes on my left foot are aiming the long edge. Toes on my right foot are aiming to the short edge. Bend my left knee. Reach my right arm out. Again, pushing something away. The left arm comes up and over. My chest aims forward. Good. Find your breath here. You can sink down a little bit more to deepen the stretch. And finish on up. Good. Rotate your right foot so your toes face the long edge of your mat. Rotate your left foot so that your toes rotate toward the short end of your mat. Bend your right leg. Reach your left arm out over your right leg. Right arm comes up. You're pushing that wall, imaginary wall away, and come on back up. Bend the right leg. Push with your left arm. Right arm comes up. This is dancing warrior. Come on back up. Here's our last one. We'll hold this one. Bend the right knee. Our left arm pushes. Right arm comes up. Up and over. Maybe you sink a little bit more. Good. Come on up. Alrighty. Let's stand at the back end of your mat, facing so that you're facing the short edge of your mat. And let's inhale, bring our arms up. And then exhale, with a nice long spine, let's just come on down. Bend our knees, plant our hands, set our knees down. We'll come into that hands and knees position. From here, we'll add a little mobility of the spine. So as we exhale, we're going to tuck your tailbone in the crown of the head, drop your gaze between your thighs. Let the head dangle between your shoulders or between your arms as you push the earth away from you. Inhale, reverse course, crown of your head, tailbone come up. This cow, the belly gets a little saggy here, saggy cow, sometimes they call it. And then angry Halloween cat as you exhale. Inhale, reverse course. Now, take about 2 more of these. Let your breath dictate how fast you go and what works for you. I would suggest that you focus on the low back. So aiming that low back, I'm going to sort of put my hand where I'm talking about, that place right above my pelvis, or right on the back side of my pelvis, is arching up toward the ceiling. All right, good. If you need a wrist break, separate your knees, set your chest down between your thighs, bring your arms back around by your feet. We'll take a little child pose. And we'll come back up when you're ready to hands and knees. Now this time I'm going to extend my left leg long. And then I'm going to bring my leg out toward my left side as if I wanted to look at my pedicure on my left foot. And I'm going to turn my foot so it's parallel to the floor. Good. And now my toes aim down toward the floor, and now they aim toward my head. And down toward the floor, and toward my head. Good. Anytime we can build core, it's nice for the spine. It's a protective mechanism. You're continuing to move. Good. And set that leg down. Reach that right leg out first. Find your stability here. Your balance. This is a nice little balance challenge. Balance always equals core. Same with all those standing moves. All right, so I'm going to reach my right leg around. I'm going to look toward my pedicure and then bring it back. Leg stays long. I'm going to reach, look around. Good. We get a little hip stretch here too. Look at it. Bring it forward so that hip turns out just a little bit. Maybe quite dramatically. So the toes face down. Here's our last one. And now they face me. Good. And I'm going to set my right knee down. Now, I'm going to reach my left leg out again, and now I'm going to add my right arm. We're just going to hang out here for a second. I want you to take about 8 or 10 breaths. Again, a nice core challenge. That protective mechanism, when the core engages, it protects the low back. It's as if it's sandwiching the spine between the abdominal muscles and the spine muscles. All right, replace your hand and then the knee. If you need a wrist break, go ahead and take it. Now the right leg reaches out long, hips are level, and the left arm reaches out in opposition. You're doing great. All right, we're going to take about 3 more breaths here. I'm going to replace my hand and then my knee. I'm going to tuck my toes, and we're going to come up into a down dog. And here at the down dog, we're going to walk our dog. I'm going to set one heel down as I bend the opposite knee. And then I'm going to shift and set the other knee or heel down, and the opposite knee bends. So sometimes we get a little low back discomfort because our hamstrings are tight. So this is a nice way to loosen those up. Alrighty, and set your knees down. And then we're going to come to lie on our bellies with our hands right underneath our shoulders. We're going to work on strengthening our upper back. Now, my hands are here more just for visuals. I'm not really pushing with my hands. I could do this without my hands. But if you need a little bit of help, you could. But what we're working on is strengthening this upper back, especially for those people who might have osteoporosis or have professions where they spend a lot of time hunched over something. I think of dentists and dental hygienists or accountants, things like that. Anybody really with a desk job. This is a nice way to strengthen that upper back and counteract that forward head position. At 60 degrees forward of neutral, so if that head isn't stacked right over your shoulders, your head dramatically gets heavier, or more forces applied on your spine. So this is a nice way to strengthen your spine. So we're going to inhale and lift the head and chest up off the mat. Again, my hands are just here for looks, and then I'm going to set it back down. I can lift my belly button and protect my low back if I have any low back discomfort. The other thing to do is separate your feet. If this bothers your low back as you come on up, just separate your feet a little bit more. We're going to come up and back down. We're going to do one more like this. Up and back down. And now I'm going to walk my elbows forward so that my elbows are underneath my shoulders. And I'm just going to hang out here in this position that forces my spine into this open position, or extension we call it. And this is a nice position if you're ever having low back discomfort. This rest position, the Sphinx pose, is one physicians and physical therapists used to take that pressure off, to open up that spinal column. So you can do this whenever you want. At the end of the day, it's a nice one to do. I'm going to pause here for another couple breaths, and then we're going to come to a seated position. We'll add a twist here in a second. Alrighty. So I'm going to lower myself, press with my hands, and press myself up to a kneeling position, and then through to a child pose. You make this child pose whatever you need it to be. We'll take about 6 or 8 breaths here. And we'll make our way to a seated position. Now, if you have trouble sitting up, if it's challenging on the front of your thighs, roll a mat or a towel or something up underneath your hips. And I apologize, I didn't say, some nice, gentle, relaxing music might be nice. Now, I'm going to sit with my left leg long, and I'm going to take my right knee and bend it and put my right foot on the outside of my left thigh. And then I'm going to take my left hand, and I'm going to hug my right knee in toward my left shoulder. And that left leg is going to be active. So my ankle is flexed, and I'm pressing the back of my left leg into the floor. I'm going to put my right hand behind my right hip, and then I'm going to start with my gaze. And I'm just going to look over my right shoulder. Good. We're going to hold this here. We're going to hold for about 6 breaths or so. Think long with the spine, as if your spine were a barber pole, and that stripe were slowly turning an upward sort of trajectory. Good. Unwind gently. Always come out of your unwinds, out of your twist gently. Good. Reconnect that left arm. Pull that right knee into your left shoulder, right hand behind you again. Gaze starts it. And rotate. Maybe you notice a little stretch on the outside of this hip. Looking good, everybody. I miss seeing you all in person. Unwind. All right, let's change it up. Now the right leg extends. It's nice and active. My left knee bends and the left foot comes to the outside of my right leg, I'm going to hold on with my right leg and pull that left knee in toward my right shoulder. My left hand comes behind. So my spine is nice and long here. That back hand, in this case the left hand, acts like a sort of a kickstand to hold you up. All right, gaze initiates it. As you exhale, rotate around. As with everything in the body, nothing is ever quite symmetrical. So you might notice that you don't get as much twist on one side versus the other. It's okay. Gently unwind. Good. Reconnect with that elbow and the knee. Sit up tall. And exhale, rotate. Good. We'll take about 3 more breaths here. See that your right leg is still active, that the back of your right leg is pressing toward the earth. It may not be able to totally reach it, but that's okay. And then gently inhale and unwind. We're going to come to a side lying position. We're going to stretch one of the big culprits of back pain, the quadratus. So I'm going to bend my knees, and I'm going to put my knees in front of me. And then I'm going to come to my right elbow. So here, if you were to measure this angle, my spine is nice and long here, and I'm probably at about, I don't know, somewhere between 30, 40 degrees here. And my legs are going to kind of be an anchor for me. Now, I'm going to drop that right hip toward this earth, and my right side body is going to come closer to the floor. Good. And now I'm going to come on back up. The other thing, the way to describe this is if the weight is on my hip bone, the outside of my right hip bone, as I rotate it now, it shifts higher on that hip bone. And I get a little side bend. If you're looking at the top side of my body, I go from a straight position to a sort of a sinking down position. And this is a nice way to stretch that quadratus. All right, we're going to do 2 more. Sink down. It's the side-lying version of Angry Halloween Cat, Saggy Cow, but we're just doing the Saggy Cow part of it. And then sink down. And then come on back up. All right, now I'm going to migrate down to lying on my side. I'm going to put my right arm under my head. My knees are still bent, and I can see my knees. We'll add a little more upper back rotation here. I'm going to take my left hand and reach it out in front of me so it's right in line with my shoulder. And then as I exhale, I'm going to bring my hand up. My gaze is going to follow it, and I'm going to open myself up. My knees, the weight of my legs is going to sort of anchor my lower half as my left arm opens out to the left. Maybe it touches the earth, maybe it doesn't. My chest is now open toward the sky, maybe not 100%, but trying. And then inhale, close it back up. All right, let's do that again. Your head might rotate a little bit because your gaze is going to follow. So I'm going to raise my arm up, my gaze is going to follow it. My knees stay to the right, my arm comes to the left. Good. I'm going to hold this for another couple breaths. And then I'm going to close it as I inhale. We're going to take 1 more like that. Exhale up and over. Legs to the right, arm to the left. And then close it back up. All right, I'm going to sit up and I'm going to pivot to my other hip. We have to do the same thing on the other side. So elbow is going to be underneath my shoulder. Knees are bent in front where I can see them. Good. And now we're going to do that saggy cow position for the spine, those quadratus muscles. So I'm going to dip my hip toward the earth. The weight shifts upward on my hip. And my top side body, my waist gets closer to the floor. And now it gets closer to the ceiling. If you look here where my top hand is, I'm going to sink down. Good. And then back up. So this top hip pushes down. The angle of it changes. Let's do 2 more. And one side, again, you might notice one side feels tighter than the other. That's totally normal. All right, come on up. Now set your head down on your left arm. Your knees are still bent. Your right arm's out in front in line with your shoulder. You're going to exhale. You're going to open things up and keep your knees to the left, your gaze to the right, arm to the right. Inhale, close it back up. Good, we'll do 2 more. Exhale, open it. Just like we opened away from the wall at the very beginning. This time we have a little bit of help of gravity, a little bit of help with stabilization with the lower legs. Exhale, open. Take about 4 or 5 breaths here. Close it back up. Alrighty, and now we're going to make our way to our back. Have your yoga strap handy. We'll need it. All right, so let's start here with our knees bent and our soles of our feet on our floor. This is going to be a subtle little move. We're going to stretch the tailbone just a little bit. Here, we're going to progress this as we go along. So my knees are in line with my hip bones on the front side of my body, and my heels are in line with my sits bones on the back side of the body. And then I put a little pressure into the soles of my feet as I imprint my spine along the mat, and I'm going to reach my tailbone in the direction of my feet and maybe even up, maybe toward the back of my ankle where my Achilles is. So I'm just going to push and slightly lift, just a little subtle movement, and then release it. All right, we're going to do that again. I'm going to imprint, reach the tailbone away and slightly lift it. And when I say slightly, it's not really even coming up off the mat. Just the pressure shifts of where you're weighted against the mat. We're going to do 3 more of those. Imprint, reach it away, reach it away, reach it away. Good. And this one, next one, reach it away, reach it away, reach it away. Good. Now, I want you to pick your feet up and hold your knees. So my knees are aiming up somewhere close to the ceiling. Now from here, I'm just going to put a little tension into my knees, and I'm going to just sort of lift my tailbone a little bit. I'm going to imprint my spine along the mat, and my tailbone lifts in that same direction it was. It's going to reach away from my body toward the end of my mat, and maybe up like it's going to try to climb up a wall on the other side, but it's tiny. It's very small. Here's our last one. Good. Replace the feet. If your knees don't bother you, you can align your heels with your sits bones, and your middle finger can reach the heel of your foot. Now from here, keeping the spine nice and stable and long, just lift up. We'll come into a bridge. We'll strengthen those muscles on the back side of the body. Open up that front body. Again, and then lower. So sometimes when we have been sitting for a long time, we get a little out of whack in the pelvis and the front of the hip flexors. This movement helps. This opening the front of the side body, or the front of the hip flexor. Good. And one last one like that. Alrighty. Now from here, I want you to bring your right arm up overhead. And now straighten your right leg. So my right side, my arm and leg are reaching away from each other. And now I'm going to rotate my left knee across my right thigh. Get a little bit of a twist here. I'm going to put my left arm out to the side, and I'm with my palm down to kind of stabilize myself, and my left hip reaches up. And then I'm going to unwind. All right, we're going to do that 2 more times. Right arm is up overhead. Now, if your shoulder bothers you, make a modification. Just put your arm wherever it can go. But otherwise, we're going to reach it up And then as you exhale, the left thigh comes across the right. The left knee comes across the right thigh. Good. And then replace, put the right arm down, bend the right knee. Extend the left leg and the left arm away from each other. And I'm going to bring my right arm out somewhere like an upside down V or a T. I'm going to exhale and I'm going to rotate through the lower back, through the mid back, and as I bring my right thigh across my left leg. And then come on back. Good. And then left arm, left leg away from each other. Right leg comes across the left thigh. We add that rotation. I'll stabilize or support myself with my right arm. Take another couple of breaths here. Come on back. I'm going to grab my strap. I'm going to bend both legs, both knees, and set the soles of the feet down on the mat in front of my hips. And I'm going to take that strap and put it over my right leg, my right foot. Now I'm going to reach the leg out long. So from here, let's just do a little warm up where I extend the leg, reach out through the heel, and I'm going to totally support my leg with the strap, right? So my leg doesn't have to hold itself up. I'm going to bend and extend. One last time, bend and extend. So as I extend, my right knee straightens. So I'm going to slide my left leg long along the mat. And now I'm going to take that strap with both hands. I'm going to hold it as I reach out through the heel of my right foot. And then I'm going to reach out through the heel of my left foot. I'm going to root my left leg to the earth, just like we did in that seated position. And I'm going to start to put a little tension on the strap as I pull my right leg toward my right thigh. Now, keep the toes aiming toward your nose or the ankle flexed. We're going to take about 6 or 8 more breaths here. If you're shaky, that's all right. The idea is, though, that we reach out from that heel. We make that leg as long as possible. Get a hamstring stretch. Again, part of the, if we have tight hamstrings, it can contribute to low back pain. You'll also get a little low back stretch here. All right, now keep the strap in your hand. Gently release that tension. Pick up your left foot and slide it into the strap, and then take the right leg out. Good. Now set the right foot down on the mat, and now just hold onto the strap with your hands, one or both, it doesn't matter, and then just reach out through the heel of the left foot. We're just sort of warm it up. So I'm going to reach out through my heel, and then I'm going to bend. I'm going to reach it out. Just see where you have to be in order to get it straight. It might be super low like this. Everybody's different. Our ability to stretch, we're born with. We sort of have a natural set point. We can increase it slightly, about 5% or so, but we have to work at it gently. All right. Now, as we reach out through the left heel, that leg is long. I'm going to slide my right leg long, and I'm going to reach my right heel away from me, and I'm going to root my right leg to the floor. I'm going to reach out through my left heel, and now I'm going to pull the strap so as I bring my left thigh toward my left side of my torso. I'm going to keep that outward reach with my heel. I'm going to keep breathing. If I can't breathe, I'm working too much. Got to take it easy here. We'll add about 6 more breaths. As with everything, one side will be tighter than the other. Alrighty, gently release, bend that knee, set that strap off to the side. We are done with that for the time being. Bring your knees into your chest, give yourself a little hug. Now, set your left foot down on the mat and cross your right knee over your left knee, as if you were sitting in a kilt or some such fashion. And now I'm going to pick up both feet off the mat, and I'm going to hug behind my left thigh as I pull my knees toward my chest. So my right foot is aiming toward the left corner of my mat, and my left foot is aiming toward my right corner of my mat. This is a nice piriformis release, that little nerve that causes so many people troubles. All right, finish a breath or two, and then set the left foot down. And now we're going to take a twist to your right. Arms out at a T. We're just going to sink into this. Both shoulder blades are on the mat. The left foot is on the mat. My right foot is kind of hanging in the air. Finish the breath that you're on and come on up. Uncross your ankles. Put your right foot, or your knees, put your right foot down and cross your left knee over your right. Pick up your right foot. Hug it in again. This time, my right foot is aiming toward the left corner of my mat, and my left foot is aiming toward the right corner of my mat. Find your breath here as you hug your knees into your chest. Let everything go. Take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. And then gently release. Set that right foot on the mat. Arms at the T. And move your knees together over to the left. We'll hang out here, taking about 6 or 8 breaths. Bring it all back in. Hug your knees to your chest. Now, a couple of suggestions here. You can lay here quietly and just practice some breathing. You could do legs up the wall, which is, if you're experienced, I think you know what I'm talking about. I might put a tutorial about that up, but otherwise, legs just are elevated, especially if it's at the end of the day. That's a nice way to end. Or maybe you do one of the final relaxations that I have recorded on with the rest of these videos on YouTube. Alrighty, nicely done, everybody.